Hello, hello.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Today we have the beautiful Rachel with us. I have been chatting to Rachel for a long time on socials. She has a cool little biz that I'm sure you guys will learn about, and she sent me some beautiful things. So, yeah, I don't even remember your full story, but I just remember when I read your highlights reel that time, I just messaged you and was like, what the actual fuck?
Yeah.
So strap yourselves in for this one. It's a big one. I just want to start by asking, who was Rachel before she experienced baby loss?
Once upon a time, I would have answered this with the typical title like I'm a mother, a wife, what my job is. But now I know that I'm so much more than those titles. But what I do know before loss was that I was asleep, that I was completely unconscious, and that I was a product of all the beliefs and values that I had been given by family and friends, people pleaser, no boundaries, had no idea who I authentically was.
Wow. Wow. How powerful, huh? I think I said it in one of the other episodes. I said, beautiful, broken isn't, broken can be beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think, we just get so broken down, and boundaries is something I'm learning.
Yeah. And this is what your babies teach you. Like this is the gifts within the loss. And I think early on in your loss, you don't understand how there could be any gifts,
Mm,
but there
yeah.
are.
Yeah. Yeah. And because you're quite a few years, your first loss was 2018.
Yeah. So yeah, like 7 years of loss pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it changes, it ebbs and flows, and it becomes different. And I remember thinking that it would never be different.
Absolutely. And I love hearing the stories. And the girl I just interviewed literally an hour ago is 17 years in. And it was so nice to chat to her because it gives us, those that are still in that first year or that first, short time, so much inspiration and admiration as well of that, it can get better, and it will get better. But we need people like you to tell us that and show us and, lead the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go all the way back to the beginning and tell us about your first pregnancy.
Yeah, so it started off so great. Like my husband and I, we started our journey into parenthood, and before we knew it, we were blessed with two beautiful boys. Um, but I just always had this feeling that somebody was missing, and it went on for a long time, like 2 years of me being like, should we, shouldn't we, like, is it a bit greedy to go and have another
Mm,
child? But the question didn't go away. So therefore, the answer was yes. So we finally, yep, we're going to do it. My husband didn't really mind either way. He was like, it's more in your court. So if you want, I'm happy. If you don't, we don't. So we fell pregnant straight away. I'm really lucky that I can conceive very quickly. So 16 weeks into our pregnancy, just go to that 16-week midwife appointment. I can't in the past I hadn't had a natural birth, and it's something that I really wanted, and I'd had the big gap. So I was tracking along in the public system where I could have a natural birth, but I also had my private gynae just in case I couldn't have that natural birth.
yeah.
So went to the public hospital. They couldn't find the baby's heartbeat. The midwife was really reassuring. It was only with the Doppler. She was like, everything's fine. This can be pretty normal. It's probably just hiding, don't worry. So I left. I was a bit worried. But I also vomited that day. So that
You were
reassured
like, I'm
me.
fine, I'm sick. Yeah.
And then, yeah, exactly, right? You look for
Yeah.
the signs. And
Yeah.
the next day the midwife rang me and she's like, oh, I was just checking, making sure you're okay. And then in my head, I was just like, why would you call me if it was normal?
Mm. So she
And
didn't send you to go get a reassurance heartbeat
she
anywhere?
left the room to go talk to the obstetrician. And this is what I found out after, once I put in a complaint, was she asked the obstetrician to come in and do an ultrasound, and the obstetrician refused and just said she'll be fine. send her home. So, yeah, that was a bit of an issue. But then once she called me, I called my private OB and said, look, this is what's happened. I just want to get a scan to make sure. And so we went to go get the scan, no heartbeat.
Oh,
So the baby was only the size of a 13-week-old baby.
okay, wow. So
So
a missed miscarriage,
yeah,
would they call that? Yeah.
that's right. So there were lots of things that went on for me. I had never experienced grief in my life.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, like I was past the safe point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just hit me so hard, and it hit me that my baby died at 13 weeks and I didn't know, and how could I not know? Um, so yeah, I really struggled hard with that. I didn't know what this feeling felt like. I had never felt loss like this before. Um, and it's the loss not just of the baby, but my children having a brother, or a sister. It was so much more than just losing my pregnancy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so then,
How old were your two boys at that point?
so they would have been maybe 4 and 6.
Yeah.
So very young, they knew that I was pregnant, where things happen. So I'm in hospital, they're taking me to have a D&C. So when I had this experience, my obstetrician got me to come straight from the ultrasound. And because I felt sick that my baby may have passed away, I didn't eat all day. So when I went in, he was like, oh, I'm going to theatre right now. We can take you straight to theatre. So I was never offered to birth August. I was in so much shock that my husband and my doctor just made all the decisions for me. I couldn't process anything. I was just in shock. And then so next minute, I was just taken to the hospital. You'll go down to surgery. During that time, my son had an accident and had a concussion at school. So then my husband left, and then I was left by myself.
Oh my
Um,
God.
which is the right thing that he had to do. But, it's just those layers
Yeah.
of circumstances that happen in these events.
Yeah.
So when I came back from surgery, my husband and son were in the room. So we shared the news with Orlando. And I remember just telling him and him just going, what? Like, how could those words come out of your mouth? So that was really tough. I knew that I still wanted to have a baby, so we fell pregnant again.
Yeah.
And I just had this unnerving sense my whole pregnancy that something was wrong.
Yeah.
And, I shared it with my obstetrician, I shared it with my family, and everyone's like, no, it's just because you lost August.
Yeah.
It's normal for you to feel this because you've lost a baby. And we got to 17 weeks and the feeling never went. Got to 30 weeks and I'm a non-dreamer.
You're a
And
what?
this dream that Arlo died. It was so vivid. I never dream. I woke my husband. We got some juice. We were actually camping. So we went and sat on the beach, and then it took an hour for him to move.
Are you there?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. Have you got me? So I never dream, and around roughly 30 weeks I had the most vivid dream that my baby died. I remember waking up my husband. We were camping at the time, it was New Year's Eve, and we went and sat down the beach and I drank a glass of orange juice, and it took an hour or so for him to move, but I really thought at that moment that he was gone. And then, we continued on. It was the night before he passed away. I rang my obstetrician. I was like, look, I'm just worried again. He's like, okay. He was really supportive. He's like, we'll send you off for another scan. We went, we took the boys, seeing him, everything was fine. The next day I finalised his nursery, picked up things from the post office. And then that night, just something felt off. So I went through the same thing that I always go through, but I said to my husband, I'm just going to call the hospital and just see what they say. And the midwife was really nice, and she's like, just come in. So Levi stayed home with the boys. It was like 7 o'clock at night, dinner time. And I was like, I'll just go in by myself just to check. And got to the hospital. They popped the Doppler on and said, oh, I'm not really having much luck. And something that happened was when I left for the hospital, the baby was transverse. And when I got to the hospital, the baby was head down. So it gave me this sense of hope that the baby has moved. But little did I know that once a baby passes away, they just can roll around. So that sense was incorrect. So, she couldn't find the heartbeat. And she'd say, I'll just go get another midwife. And then that midwife would, I'll just go get another midwife. So, now I've got 4. And also, like they're pressing the emergency alarm bell, like everything needs to come, So I'm without my husband. And they put the thing on your finger that reads your heartbeat, and then they had the strap on my belly that reads your baby's heartbeat. And so one of them was 83 and one of them was 85. So, like, they weren't identical. So, like, in my head, I'm like, maybe my baby is, still, there's a difference there. So, and I just wanted to hold on to hope because I knew I'd been here before and I didn't want to be here again. And, so I rang my husband and I said, you need to come. And then, it took a bit of time. And then I rang him again and he's like, we're on our way. And I was like, no, you can't bring the kids.
Oh, no.
Like he just didn't realize, So he took the kids to his parents' house, which was close by, luckily. Anyway, they said to us, look, we're preparing the theatre for you and your obstetrician's on his way. So, we'll get some information. So I just kind of sat there in hoping.
Preparing the theatre but not knowing what they were planning on doing? Or
yeah. So my obstetrician came and they had the ultrasound trolley ready. And I remember him just talking to me and it just felt like delay, like he wanted Levi to be there. And so he put the Doppler on my belly and the screen was very still. And I said to him, is that my baby's heart? And he said, just give me a moment. I just want to look around. And I just looked at his face because I knew in that moment. And I can't remember what he said to me. But yeah, Arlo was not to be mine. And I knew that all along. So that was really hard to take because I knew, but I couldn't save him. So Levi arrived a few minutes later and I said to him, he's gone. And he said to me, I'm so sorry, you knew. And I did know. I don't know how I knew, but I knew. So they said to us, you can birth him tonight or, you can go home and have some time and come back tomorrow morning. So we chose to take the time just to, process it. And we drove home and I couldn't sleep. Like,
how are you meant to?
Yeah, so I sat up just in the lounge room and the night was the longest night of my life. And, it's such a weird place to be because I'm carrying a baby, but I'm carrying death. Like I'm now a coffin to my baby. And that was just such a hard feeling to sit with. So we should have had him that night because that night was extremely torturous for me. And I became extremely scared of what I was about to face and to know that I had no choice but to face it. And so we got to the hospital early and everyone, was so kind and supportive and we were given the most beautiful midwife who, really looked after both Levi and I, not just me. And, she explained to us how the process would happen and I was so scared. And I remember just trembling, my whole body shaking the whole time and it being freezing. And I didn't know it was just because I was cold or it was actually trauma,
Shock.
and
Yeah.
shock. And
Yeah.
I now know that's what it was. So I had to have him via cesarean. They took us to theatre, and
Did you
I
have to have him
remember
via cesarean
Nicole.
because you'd had cesareans before?
Yeah, and it was just high risk for me. So just to remove any more risk from our family,
Yeah.
yeah, it was the right decision to do that. And I remember her bringing him over to me and just falling in love with him in that moment, just like I did with my living children. That although he wasn't living, it was still a beautiful experience that I didn't need to be scared of. That I
Oh.
had just given birth to one of my children, and he was beautiful. And how desperately I wish that he was
Oh.
alive. So we spent the next 3 days in hospital with him. The hospital were really great. They didn't pressure us to leave the hospital. You can spend as much time with him as you like. The funeral home was a family friend of ours, and they offered you can take him home if you want. And at the time I thought, I don't want to make life harder for myself. Like, I don't want to have those
Yeah.
memories of him at home. So let's just
Hmm.
have it at the hospital. And now sometimes I regret that, because I
I'm
think
the
you fear
same.
these things, but you
Yeah.
don't actually need to fear them, because we would have created some beautiful memories at home
No.
with but the 3 days we spent with him were
I love that
beautiful.
you spent so much time with him.
And we allowed family and friends to come and meet him and hold him. The boys came and met him. And that was a really hard part, because they didn't know that he had passed away. So when
Oh,
they came to the
fuck.
hospital, they thought they knew that the hospital meant a baby, right? And Orlando had this conversation with Nan, like, I remember we came here when Auntie had her baby, and she said he was skipping, like he was so excited. And I remember
Mm.
Nan just being like, I know what he faces when he goes through those doors. So we opted to have Arlo out of the room to share the news and to give the boys
Okay.
the option to meet him, just because death is so scary, and we
Mm.
just so they both wanted to meet him. And the boys played two very separate roles in their grief. So Grayson, who was younger, around 5 at the time, he just wanted to make everyone happy. And
No.
that's the role he plays. He's a ball of sunshine, wants to joke and laugh and be funny. And now in hindsight, it was really beautiful that he played that role, and that's probably what we needed. But at the time,
Mm.
I also found it was too much for me
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
grief. I
Yeah.
wasn't ready for that. So he also didn't really like holding or like touching. He didn't hold Arlo, but he didn't really want to touch him. Like, you could see that he had this resistance, and we didn't want to force it.
Yeah.
Where Orlando, on the other hand, the more time he spent with him, the more he fell in love with him. I have this video of him, being, Mum, he's so cute. Like, look at his button nose, and describing all of his features. And it's what he would have done if he was a living baby. And that's the
Mm.
real gift that Orlando gave me, watching him bond with his brother
Even
as
though
a
he was,
brother, regardless
yeah, wow.
of our circumstances. And it was in that moment that I knew that that Arlo wasn't our last baby. It was
Mm.
not just for me, but it was for Orlando. Orlando grieved.
Yeah.
As a 7-year-old, he was so excited to have a baby brother. He had planned, like, I'm going to do this with him, and he's going to sleep in my bed, and, I'm going to teach him how to play basketball. He had forward projected just as I
Mm.
had.
Wow.
So the
which
loss.
which which makes us not feel so silly, right? Because when we have even our 5.5 week miscarriage 2 weeks ago, like, we were planning next summer with a baby.
Yeah.
And then when you lose it, you feel so stupid. You're like,
Yeah.
how would it, why did I plan a life with something that is not promised to us?
Yeah.
But, even they as little kids do that, because that is beautiful at a human nature, that we should be able to plan those things and we should be gifted them.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we had his funeral, and then I just knew straight away, like, we wanted to have another baby. We went and got the autopsy results, which we didn't have a full autopsy because I just didn't want him to be cut open. Like, he was our precious baby, and I don't know, inside of me, I didn't want that to happen. So we just got his umbilical cord and the bits where, it wasn't so invasive. And it came back that he had a hypercoiled umbilical cord. So his umbilical cord had 7 coils per 10 centimeters, and a normal baby would only have 2 coils per 10 centimeters.
And can that I have interviewed people that have had this same thing, but I'll ask again: is that something that could have been picked up in a scan, or it's just not?
So it is something, and in the UK, it's looked for more than Australia. But what's interesting is once we got these results, it made me do some further research, and also I just have this really beautiful photo of Grayson being born where they've pulled him out of my belly and his umbilical cord is hanging down, and you can see how coiled it is. And, the doctor's hand is there. So then, I've taken this to my obstetrician where we've looked at that and said, well, look at the size of your hand and how many coils per centimeter.
Wow.
So Grayson also had a hypercoiled umbilical cord. So Willow, who's here now, my last baby, he also had a hypercoiled umbilical cord. So it's something that my body does.
And did you find out about Willow's when you were pregnant?
I did.
Were you fucking petrified?
Yeah, so it was a very complicated pregnancy. I didn't, like, until he was in my arms, I was unable to breathe, to know that he was ours. Yeah, it was tough. Yeah, so it sent me on this research, and then it was hard because I wanted to have another baby, but I was really scared to have another baby. And then I had all this grief that I had to deal with. And then I had all these people being like, we just want the old Rachel back. Like, you just need to move forward. Let's fix you. Go to counseling. Depression. It's like, and I hated that. So what I did was I shut the whole entire world out, including my parents. I couldn't deal with anyone. I had nothing to give the world. I was so broken. I just needed to look after myself, and the only way I could do that was by shutting the whole world out. So my husband, my children, and 2 of my girlfriends were all that I allowed in. So I fell pregnant again, and so we went and got the autopsy results, and I spoke to my ob and said, want to have another baby. He was like, okay, yep, you can have another baby. You'll have to have a cesarean because it's so close. We have to monitor your scar, make sure everything's safe. So I fall pregnant straight away. So, I'm 8 weeks post-loss and I'm pregnant again. I'm pregnant with twins. So you think, wow, so no twins in my family. And then I think it's a sign, right? Like, I've lost 2 babies and now I've been gifted 2 babies. So we get to the point where we can have an ultrasound, find out it's twins. They're MCMA, which means there's 1 sac, 1 placenta.
Fuck.
It is so high risk that by the time we see my obstetrician, he says to us, so the chances of having this sort of pregnancy is if the egg had have split 1 day later, we would have had Siamese twins. So it's so super rare. Wow. So like the the egg splits into two and then we get two babies. So it's so rare and so high risk to have MCMA. So he says to us, you really need to think about this because there's a couple of things in play. The chances of you carrying these babies is 30%. So highly likely you need to prepare to lose both of them. Second thing is you've just had a cesarean and now you're not having a singular baby. You're having twin babies. This cesarean scar. And it's also your third cesarean, So he's like, this is very high risk for you. Yeah. And Levi instantly, he was like, we're not doing it. We're not having the baby. Like he knew both sides and he knew how hurtful. He's like, but you are a mum to your children that are living, and we've been through so much loss. And I felt so much shame for this, but we decided to end the pregnancy because it's so hard, right? Like, and I was so ashamed of it that the people that I had told that I was pregnant, still to this day, I told them that I had lost the babies because how could my babies die and then I decide not to have these babies that I was gifted? And today I still wonder, like, maybe it would have been this chance that they did survive. Maybe I could have been,
and maybe that pregnancy could have survived, but your uterus probably wouldn't have. Like, I have done all the research on uterine rupture because I'm such at high risk now, and I'm 11 months on, and I'm still petrified of falling pregnant with twins because my OB is still telling me that I'm high risk for, like, our uteruses are amazing but fragile, and 8 weeks after a cesarean, like, that would have been the hardest, worst decision ever for you. But you probably saved your own life. And like Levi said, you have other children at home you had to care for and be there for. And oh my gosh, you poor thing. Fuck.
Yeah. So it was just like, I just felt so bad because I so desperately wanted to have a baby. And then I got two babies and then I had to make that decision. And so it felt horrible. It made my grief even worse.
Of course.
Because then I carried two, like I was just layering upon layering.
And they weren't normal twins. You didn't have 2 eggs, 2 sacs, like their survival rate was already low. Like it just, oh my God.
And it was just like, what are the chances? Like, why is this happening to me? Like, I've lost 2 babies and now you've given me this. Like, what? Am I not meant to have a baby? So then I fell pregnant again. We lost the baby. Fell pregnant again, lost the baby. And then I had said to my husband, okay, so it's coming up to the end of the year. If we don't fall pregnant by the end of the year, then we're done. I have to just accept that this is my life. Because when you start living in this loss, and for me, because I had living children, I had to draw a line in the sand because I also had to mother through my grief.
Yeah.
I still had to show up and be there for my children, and the time period was getting too long. The roller coaster, and for me it was super important that I'm still a good mum to my kids, and all of a sudden, if I'm staying in my grief forever, how am I mothering my children and showing up for them and getting out of bed and being the true mum that I want to be to the kids that I have that I'm grateful for? So Levi and I agreed, give it to the end of the year. If it's meant to be, it'll meant to be. If it's not, then it's not.
Yeah.
I had also made the decision to protect myself that I wasn't going to take a pregnancy test.
Okay.
So I was just like, if I'm pregnant, I'm going to take a pregnancy test on the 1st of January. New year, fresh start. So that was like the 8-week mark. So I, I knew in my heart because I didn't get my period.
Yeah.
But I wasn't taking
Oh my gosh. How did you wait so long?
I know. But it was one of those things where I had been through so much loss. I just felt like it was better not to know. And I had done the pregnancy where I did the HCG test. and I went to the doctor every week and we monitored it. And so I checked and knew
Mm-hmm.
exactly where I was
Yep.
at. And I still ended in miscarriage. So what I started to realize was that it didn't matter, like, if I triple checked on my pregnancy, like, the outcome was the
It
outcome.
doesn't stop
So
it. Yeah.
why not just be a bit more relaxed about it, let it go? So because you become obsessive about it,
Yep.
So I was like, I need to just let go of it. Like, we've got the plan. I'll either be pregnant or I won't. They're the two outcomes. So I knew already deep down in my heart, but come 1st of January, I took the pregnancy test and it was pregnant. And I had a good feeling. I had this sense that this was my baby. We'd also planned that we were going to go travel around Australia. So as soon as this baby arrived or didn't arrive, we were traveling around Australia. It was our backup plan that if it wasn't meant to be, I couldn't be in the city with family. I had to be away and to work out who
Yeah.
I was as a mother of two. So we planned this trip and Willow was born. And it was funny times because it was COVID.
Okay, yeah.
So because I didn't want to share my pregnancy with anyone. So even this whole pregnancy, I kept a secret. I didn't even tell my family. And because of COVID, it was very easy to do that. So we left when he was 6 weeks old, but when he was 3 weeks old, we announced him to the world.
Wow.
And a lot of people were very angry at us. But for the first time in my life, I didn't really care. It was just like, to me, and this is what it was. And I didn't have the safe period. Like, I didn't have the 12 weeks safe. I had been.
You didn't have 12. You didn't have 16. You didn't have 30. I get it.
So this was my safe period. It was having a living baby in my arms, in my home, in his nursery. There were so many layers, and it was just. I had so much anxiety of my own that I didn't want to carry other people's worry.
Yeah.
And then what, like, you've been through all these losses and, you're still doing it. And
and the judgment, like, I think, I said it to someone the other day, I hate that when other people already have children, it's like, we've already got some, just be grateful. It's like, no, when your heart is yearning for a child, like, I could feel it when you're telling it, like, you were still yearning, and we know deep down what's coming and what we need. And, like, you were yearning, you knew that you had another Earthside baby to come. And so you were doing what you felt you needed to do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So little baby Willow came along, and it's like the moment they handed to me, I took a breath for the first time. Even my best friend, she was the only person who came to the hospital, but she was like, Rachel, you look different. She's like, your face is just different. It's like you're breathing, and this is the gift that Willow gave me was, although it wasn't his job to heal my heart, he healed me in ways that I didn't know was possible. He's just this most beautiful soul who is meant to be ours. And Willow was also a twin, but his twin vanished.
Vanishing twin syndrome, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was actually a twin and the other one vanished. And I say to my mum all the time, I was like, that's why I'm so awesome, because I'm like 2 in 1.
Yeah.
So that's why I was about to say, that's why Willow's so awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So fuck. So you had no twins in your family and you got 2 sets. Like,
yeah, it's weird, hey. And so, like, just with Willow's pregnancy, it was it was so complicated. I can't remember what it was, but part of my uterus wasn't attached where it was meant to be, and which meant that I would have had to have him at 28 weeks unless it fused. And so then they had me going for scans regularly, which is with the hypercoil umbilical cord and the fused uterus, and it did fuse. So that was one relief. We knew that we could go to full term with him. So the pregnancy was also problematic. So it was I didn't just get to go have a normal pregnancy where
Mm.
I had every time we showed up to a scan, there was like a new problem, you know, or like
What
the Hypercoil.
at at what gestation did the other one vanish? Was it early or
Yeah, by 12 weeks.
okay? I
So we
wasn't
had
sure if there was a
the scan and then the 12-week scan and 12 weeks. Yeah, it was gone.
wow. And then was there any other because even though I was one, it was so long ago. I don't know was there a risk in that? I've got a friend in the UK at the moment that I'm chatting to, and she's pregnant with twins, and she's lost one, and she's just so fucking petrified. But the other one became a molar twin, which a molar pregnancy in
Yeah.
general is super dangerous, and so and then luckily not luckily I have another friend, my friend's sister's pregnant in the UK also with twins and has lost one, so I've connected them and they're talking,
Yeah, no.
but they're not vanishing twins because it was later on in the pregnancy. So when it's a vanishing twin, is there like more risk or it just literally vanishes?
It
It's
just
just
literally
gone.
vanishes. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't really know the process behind it, but yeah, it's there and then it's gone.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Before
So
twelve
didn't
weeks.
the twin part didn't add any additional risk to this pregnancy. Um, but then because he had the hypercoiling and that my uterus wasn't fused properly, um, yeah, it was just touch and go. But I had scans every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So my
Yeah.
obstetrician was fine for me to do that. And we actually, because it gets so expensive to have a baby, we did
Mm-hmm.
one. She's the head of King Eddie Hospital, which is the baby hospital. So I had the best sonographer scanning
Oh,
me.
good. Yeah.
And then every second week, I just go to one of the Medicare build ones.
Okay.
And I remember it was my last scan, and we went to a bulk build one, and the lady refused to do my measurements. And she said, no, you don't need your measurements done because they were done 2 weeks ago. And I was like, no, but I want them done. And my obstetrician has requested them. And she's like, oh, no, it's against procedure. Like, you don't need it because it'll cause you more worry because you need to do it monthly. And I was like, well, if my baby doesn't grow, then I'll go have my baby tomorrow. You know, like we need
Yeah.
this data. And I ended up hysterical, like in tears to
Mm.
the point I was like a bit ruthless. I was like, do you know that I'd been in this situation where I've had a scan today and my baby died tomorrow?
Yeah.
So I have every right to have the measurement. So she had to go get approval from blah, blah, blah. And they finally did them. And I remember my obstetrician saying to me, oh, I heard you had some issues at the scanning place.
Yeah, I did.
I was going to fight for my baby. Like, I didn't care what
Absolutely.
your policy was. It didn't make sense. It wasn't made for my circumstances.
Yeah.
So if you believe something, you should fight for it.
And the shit thing is we
Yeah,
don't
don't
learn
let
how
them tell
much we
you.
should fight for ourselves until we lose a child. Like I think
Yeah,
like you wouldn't have
exactly.
known to fight for that had you have not been through the losses you'd been through.
Yep,
And I think
exactly.
that's the shit part.
Yep. So we were very lucky that Willow was born safely and healthy, and we chose to have him at 37 weeks on the dot, which is the recommendation. My
Mm-hmm.
obstetrician was great. He was like, we can go earlier. We brought the pediatrician in to discuss our options, and
Yeah.
37 weeks is what everyone kind of felt was the good. We could get me to there. That would be great, and
Yeah.
yeah, he came along and yeah, just changed our lives, just
Mm.
gave us
And
hope, healed
and
us.
and how's Orlando with him?
There. So now he's 3.5 and they have the sweetest bond. Like they're just so connected, and Orlando loves him like a third parent.
Yeah.
Like he knows
Because
how
he's
special
what? Is he
he is.
10 now? No, how
So
old's Orlando now?
he's 12 now.
Oh,
He's
12. Yeah.
12. Yeah, so he would have been 9 when we had him. But yeah,
Yeah.
he wanted a brother, he wanted a
Yeah.
sibling. He wanted to
Yeah.
nurture someone and be that big brother, and he truly is. You know, like he's already like, when I move out, Willow's going to come and stay at my house. Like
when I move out, it's
yeah, I
true.
know. Yeah, and you know, they're so cute. He has a basketball ring. He wants to get Willow a little basketball ring, you know, so he can coach him, and they're just so sweet.
What a sweet boy.
Yeah, I love them. And Grayson and Willow get along on a different level where they have more of the sibling rivalry. Yeah, Willow really stole that baby position from Grayson.
I was going to say, which is probably Grayson's, like, Grayson reminds me of my Dylan when you were saying, like, always has to make people laugh and all that. Yeah. That's what my Dylan is like. And it is hard when you're in the grief. It's like, stop fucking laughing and making jokes. Just cry with me, you know? And so, I mean, as a child, it's a lot different to a grown adult, but it was really challenging to see someone, but it is their personality and they feel like their job is to make people happy, and
it's their coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And it is just, that's what the journey teaches you. Like everyone deals with this in their own way and there's no right or wrong. You just have to honor your own journey.
And how did your, like, obviously loss in a marriage is so hard, you know, it added a whole other element of challenge to our relationships. And I think, you know, 85% of marriages fail, they say. But
it's high, isn't it?
You're still talking about your husband, so that's good. You're there.
I'm so, like, I have an amazing husband and he's so supportive, and he's really been so supportive with everything I've done, you know, to not telling the world about our pregnancy, to whatever I've needed, he's allowed me to have without making me feel guilty or bad or caring about what other people thought. But I do really hold some guilt towards him because I feel like he didn't just lose all the babies. He also lost me.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was the one who got to see my real grief. Wow. He got to see me, you know, just at the depths, in the most darkest places. And, you know, I could turn up to school drop off and put on my face and, you know, go through the motions. But he got to see the deepest, darkest parts of my soul and to be my rock in those moments. Like, I have so much gratitude towards him to be able to show up for me, for my family, you know, for our kids, to take on that role and be a constant just role of support without judgment, is probably what got me through it. Yeah. Without him, I don't know that I would have survived it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's so special, and it's I don't think enough men get credit, and maybe not all of them are as beautiful as ours, because I know I'm so fucking blessed to have Dylan, and he's made, you know, I wouldn't have survived without him. And even at one point in February, I was like, I'm out and I can't do this, because I felt I couldn't give him what he deserved as a husband, because I just was like, I just need to survive this myself. And I couldn't give what he needed, which was, you know, physical touch and just like love and emotion and intimacy in any aspect. I was like, I just can't. But he is so solid and such a rock and so beautiful. And even though he was always that playful person, when I couldn't even cop that, he's learned, like, he's such a great learner. Like, he's like, okay, cool, it's not the time and the place, you know, but he has just, picked up the pieces. But also I've learned to then be strong when I can, so that he can fall when he needs to as well, you know. Not that he falls hard like I do, but he's never suffered from depression or anything like that. So he's a, you know, much stronger person than me. Absolutely. Yeah, we communicate so well and with so much respect. I mean, we've over the years had rules around, you know, you don't name call, or you don't, you know, we don't fight. We disagree and we argue. Like, you know, we just communicate. But, you know, but that's rules we had probably pre-Milli that have been good now. But it's fuck.
Yeah, we're lucky to have them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think also as our role, giving them the permission and space to open up and talk about it, because I know a lot of people say, oh, my husband just doesn't talk about it or doesn't deal with it. Okay, but yeah, but we've got to give them that safe space to be able to as well. And I think sometimes I was forgetting that because I was just, when we had the miscarriage the other week, I was like devastated. And then he rang me, he's like, I'm coming home from work, I'm so empty. And my heart just fucking shattered because I was like, I truly think he felt that miscarriage more than me the other
Mm,
week, because he, like your Orlando, like he is just yearning to have this child here, as am I. But I think I'm putting up this like stronger wall because I can't get to that deep darkness again, like it's like, and so now it's almost like I'm being
you're
stronger and putting up
overprotective.
my wall, and okay, I can fucking deal with this. I've been dealing, I've dealt with this, and
Yeah.
he's just like, oh, I can't, like, I know this can't be happening. So it's interesting how the roles can change as well.
Yeah. And Levi isn't like he's not a talker. He doesn't share his emotions. Like it is part of who he is. He deals with things in his own way. And I just have to respect that that's who he is. But
Yeah.
also, it's like the yin and the yang. Like, I'm a highly emotional person. If both of us were highly emotional people, like our poor kids, so
Right.
like we have this really beautiful balance where like Levi, he went back to work 2 weeks after Arlo passed away because he needed to do something. It wasn't
Yeah.
because he didn't care, but he couldn't just sit around and be in his grief.
Dylan's the
You know,
same.
and I
Yeah.
had to respect that. Where the thought of me going back to work, that was nowhere near my
Nah.
thoughts.
Did you get the maternity leave from the government?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Yeah.
And my work paid my maternity leave too.
Yeah.
So I was really
Such a
lucky.
blessing. Like of course, like we should fucking get it, of course, but
Yeah,
like
totally.
I truly had so much gratitude for that because I literally got to just fucking wallow in my bed for
Yeah.
about 4 months whilst I was getting paid. And I know some countries don't do that. I know some workplaces don't. So one of the
I had
girls I've
to fight
interviewed,
for it.
did
Um,
you?
yeah, because I just asked the question and then they didn't know the answer, and because I worked in a highly academic world,
Mm,
they have an inability to have awkward and uncomfortable conversations because just different type of personality. Um, but they were doing like this revamp of all policies, so I actually made it be put in the policies, which is just like a
Abso-fucking-lutely.
nice gift from Arlo to be like, well, if someone else faces this, then they don't have to make this fight, and this is a little imprint in the world that you.
Mm. Arlo's leave, Arlo's annual leave, Arlo, whatever. It's beautiful.
Exactly, but there are all these little gifts that you get along the way that, know that
Mm.
his life made a difference to this world.
And I think I want to lead into this. You have done some amazing things in the like baby loss community since Arlo. So, at what point did you create Arlo's keepsakes, and how did that come about?
So it was when we were traveling, I just started to think about what would have helped me or what would even help me now. And I just, especially with August, because he didn't exist in this world for me anymore. I was pregnant and I wasn't pregnant. All I had was a few ultrasound images. So I was
Yeah,
like, people need something that is
yeah,
physical, that's tangible to acknowledge the loss of their baby. So that's how I started to create that. And then I was like, I work on the Sans Brave. I have worked on the Sans Bravement line, and um, I had this one conversation with a lady where I was like, maybe you should write your baby a letter, like
mm,
and tell your baby everything that you've told me today, because, and the transformation from the beginning of the call to the end of the call. And she's like, yes, that's what I'm going to do. Like, she's like, I already feel
mm.
better about it. And then I was like, hang on, I'm going to go write a letter,
Yeah.
and then I actually, so good to like connect with my baby and tell them everything that I wanted to tell them. Um,
Mm.
And it was just such a real healing process. And then I was like, okay, so it's got to include a letter. It's got to include something tangible that you can hold. It's got to hold a space, you know, where you can put the pregnancy test. And then, you know, this beautiful product just was developed. And yeah, so it literally came from a need of what would have helped me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And since then, I've currently making an earn range.
Cool. Do you have any of
So
the
with Arlo, he came
mine?
in.
Mine are not in this room. What you've got, but if you've got them, if anyone's watching on YouTube, they can
Yeah,
have a
here's
little.
one.
Oh, is that the urn?
Sorry, it's a bit sunny.
It's very sunny.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
love
these are just
that.
prototypes. Yeah, but just something soft and simple that can be held. I
Mm,
needed something that could be held, you
yeah.
know, just like.
Mm,
So yeah, so Arlo's urn came in like a commercial little white box that had a teddy bear on it. And it
mm-hmm.
was, I actually think now in hindsight that the funeral home bought that for us. So he didn't just come in the cardboard box. And
Yeah.
I hated it because it was so commercial, it had no meaning. And so I had messaged all these potters to say, I need an urn for my baby Rora. They either said no and gave me this belief that an urn was like a special vessel that you needed to know how to make, or they just said no, it's not something that they would do. So I went to pottery classes to learn.
Oh my gosh, you're
So this is
amazing.
like a gift, you know, like one of the gifts you collect along the way. And so Arlo made me or gifted me pottery. So I went to pottery, went and did the first class, very quiet, stayed back. When they, you know, wanted to know why you were there, I was just learning pottery. Second week, I got there early to speak to my teacher, and I told him why I was there. When his daughter was 9 months old, she passed away. So he was much older than me, you know, like 65.
Mm,
You know that saying, like the teacher arrives, like when
mm.
needed. And so Stuart was like, we are going to get you an urn, like you are going to make this. Yeah, so it was just amazing. And then he had said to me, you know, there's another lady in this class in the exact same situation as you. So he didn't tell me
Wow.
who she was. But, you know, it's just funny how the journey takes you to where you need to go.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Oh,
And
I
so
love that.
5 years ago, I was like, I think that I should make urns for other people.
Yep.
And it's taken me 5 years to get to be ready, you know, to have the
Yeah.
time to be at this point. But now it's definitely where my passion is and what I want to do.
So
Um,
you went to pottery classes just to make the one for Arlo, and then now you're going to continue to
yes,
make them
that's
for others. Oh,
yes. Yeah. And
beautiful.
there's just like, there's so much connection. Like, you know, instead of feeling sadness all the time, a lot of the time I feel love. And I think it's
Mm,
all these little things, you know, that I have. And it's not like, this is a story. We brought Willow home from hospital, and someone was feeling sick, and Grayson, you know, 5-year-old, he has the digital thermometer. He's walking around taking everyone's temperature to see if it goes green or red. And then he goes, oh, I'm going to go take Arlo's temperature. And he takes the thermometer gun over to Arlo's urn and he takes his temperature. You know, like
that
so
is,
inclusive, and it creates this place where my kids, because we've chosen to really include them and we talk about
yeah.
Arlo all the time, and they know that this is Arlo's urn. And
Uh,
yeah, you know, it creates opportunity for love to just come out of nowhere.
hmm.
You know,
And
so
I think also when you create that safe space, like I didn't deliberately talk about Millie so much on the weekend, but she just naturally comes up in almost every conversation I have, even with strangers in the tattoo shop, in wherever I was all weekend. And I realize that I do just so confidently talk about her now, which in turn gives others confidence to talk about things. And if they feel awkward, I don't feel awkward anymore. So I just keep it flowing. And then, and so your kids are then learning that too. And so what a beautiful thing.
because people mirror your behavior. It's just a
Yes.
natural, like, psychological thing that we do. Yeah, so I do think the more you're open to it, it allows people to honor your baby, to talk about. Same, we have, the memory case that we gifted you in our lounge room. It's out. Sometimes it's open, sometimes it's closed. But people walk in and they know instantly that that's Arlo and all his belongings in our living room with us, and the
Love
connection
that.
is there, and the kids are allowed to go through it, and like
Yeah.
bounds.
Yeah.
It's very much, even for Willow, who's never met Arlo, he talks about Arlo all the time.
I love that.
You know,
Do you have any of your cats keepsake stuff in the room with you just there? I just want to show people. Mine are now out in the living room, and I'm so proud of it.
so I have this one here, which is beautiful,
Yeah.
forever loved, and then it's got so space to put all your belongings, and then on this side a place for a photo, and then a little envelope sleeve for the letter that you write to your baby.
I love that.
Yeah, and then it's perfect, because it can go on the bookshelf with your baby's journals that might be here earthside, or it gives an opportunity for things not to be shoved in the back of a cupboard or under a bed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your baby
Yeah.
gets to live, yeah,
I love
out where
mine
you
so
are.
much. Yeah. And I just even like, so I won a thing on, tell the listeners, I won a thing on Instagram soon after I lost Milli, and it was like a Lost Mums Club thing, and I just couldn't even believe I could enter the stupid fucking competition, and then to win it, I was like, what? Anyway, I got sent all of these amazing things, which really helped me find the community. And then I won it from you. And one of them is this big, beautiful briefcase that I believe you make. You make them?
I don't make them, but I did design them.
I
and then I
just
have them
love
manufactured
it.
elsewhere. But the design, so I designed this while I was on the trip traveling. And when the first design rocked up, which we picked up in Darwin, I just cried because I hated it.
No.
I was just like, no, like, it's not good enough. Like, and I was just like, it is not this product. Like, this,
Yeah.
my heart's not in it. It's like, I'm not doing it. My mother-in-law was traveling with us at the time, and she was like, no, you are going to do it. We've just got to change it. So let's talk about all the things you hate about it, and let's make it better. And so, yeah, for weeks we discussed it every single day. And, we redesigned it, and then the sample arrived, and I cried again because I loved it, and it was so perfect, and I'm so proud of it.
It's so beautiful. And when it arrived, I just was not expecting it. Like, it was just this big, beautiful, heavy, white, creamy colored, like leather briefcase, suitcase almost type of thing, but just this. And then you open it and the quality is good, and then you can just put all your bits and pieces in it. And I was horrified at how much I actually had to put in there, because I was like, I just had beautifully so many cards from people, and so many I made a scrapbook of photos of Milli, and this scans, and just everything. And then it was just all in this one place, and then now you open it and it's just Milli, and then I got the little miscarriage one from you, which, Dylan and I had a miscarriage in 2021, so I had things in there, which was super cute. I didn't have a scan ever of that, but a photo of me showing Dylan. And then my dog chewed it, and so Rachel was beautiful enough to send me another one, because of course my Kelpie fucking chewed the thing. And then the week it arrived was when we've just had this miscarriage just last week or the week before, and I was like, I can't believe I'm adding a second one to this, which was just so shitty. But also, in such a shittiness, it was beautiful to have somewhere to put that, and I think what you're making is absolutely beautiful, and I've really adored being able to have a part of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing.
Oh.
I always say it's like our babies, when people say, how'd you come up with the podcast? I'm like, it's like this idea just dropped from heaven onto my heart, and just came out.
Exactly. Like that's how it's birthed. Like it just pops into your head, and it's just like with the urns, I just felt it. Like I was like, one day, this is going to be my purpose. Is to honor babies, and I'm so close to launching the urn range, and it's so healing for me.
Yeah.
You know, and if I hadn't have lived, if this hadn't been my story, this is not where I would be. And there becomes this place when you get your living baby, but then all of a sudden there's like, which one would I have chosen? Like, you know, because if I had Arlo or August, I wouldn't have Willow. So then it becomes also confusing because you're like, well, hang on, like I wouldn't choose any, but I couldn't change how it is now. So you learn to accept the journey for what it is and what you've experienced. And I very much like seeing psychics and mediums, and they've told me different things along the way about, that Willow is Arlo, and Willow says things about being Arlo, that how could he say them? And then you start to question your spirituality, and you just don't know where the journey is going to take you, and what meaning you might make out of this, even though today you feel like, how could this even happen to me? It makes sense, but maybe one day it will make sense.
Yeah, I fucking hope so.
Yeah.
My auntie and I did a 7.5-hour drive home yesterday, and she said, I've always been a big believer in everything happens for a reason, but I'll never understand why you had to lose Milli. And I'm like, I know. It sucks and it's shit, but yeah. And when you're in that first year, like it's just still like what, and then the miscarriage, and then this, and then the IVF, and it's like, come on, fuck.
It's a tough slog. Like I look back and I have no idea how I did it. I don't. You just keep, the world, the universe gives you this gift of moving forward, and you can't stop it. It's just what naturally happens, and so you have to move forward because you don't get a choice.
That's right. You just roll with it. Ride the wave is just my constant. Everyone's like, how are you? Riding the wave. I'm like, stop asking how I am, because the answer's the fucking same. But anyway.
Still showing up.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
And I said to Dylan the other day, I said, sometimes I'm a total queen and other days I'm a sack of shit, and he just takes whichever one he's got that day.
That's all you can do. And you're allowed to have those feelings in those days.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I still have them today. Like, although I live in love more than loss, I still have days where, like for whatever reason, I was doing some research for the business, like what am I trying to help with? What problem am I trying to solve? And it made me go back and search Arlo in my messages on my phone. And then it took me back to like even me announcing that he had passed away. And then once I dove in, I couldn't stop myself. I just wanted to go, and I went and relived all of it again. It all just sits right there. So it's always with you.
Yeah. And how beautiful, though, to be able to just take that time to dive in and just be back there and give them that time again, because you're always giving it. It's always there, but he's always there. This is what I'm imagining as time goes on. They're always there, but you can't always give them that time. And sort of just like be in that grief with Arlo and just be like right there next to him for that amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it will make me go pick up his urn, like in cradle, just we are one, like it's just a really beautiful connection.
Man, what a wild. And so you've always had boys?
Yeah, I'm a boy mum.
Aren't you?
Yeah. My husband, he's all masculine. He's not really. He's so soft and sensitive. But
so you had Grayson, or you had Orlando, Grayson, August, Arlo. Did you ever find out the gender of the twins?
No, I didn't.
Interesting. And then you had a miscarriage, and then you had the vanishing twin with Willow.
Yeah. and that would have been a boy because they would have been identical.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, I'm like, can I not carry girls? Like, is it a girl thing? Or, you start to think about all those what ifs.
Yeah.
But yeah, like at the end of the day for me, like I love having boys, and my boys are so different that I don't really kind of believe in gender. I think you get a personality,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So for me, as you know, when you lose a baby, gender is the last thing that you would ever think about.
100%. Absolutely. I know that some people do struggle in the baby loss world, like when they've lost a girl, they really yearn for another girl, or vice versa. And a lot of people actually ask me, what will you do if you fall pregnant with a girl versus a boy, or whatever. And I'm like, I do not care.
Yeah.
Just give me my babies in my arms,
Absolutely.
And I also understand that people have different thoughts and views around that. But I just had my hair done with my old hairdresser on the weekend. She fell pregnant with triplets when she was 18, gave birth to them, has the girls. They're now 24. They're amazing, beautiful. She's raised them incredibly. She's a Kiwi. And she then had 2 other girls. And then with her husband, they went over to America and they did gender selection to get a boy.
Oh, yeah, okay.
She did not get any male embryos.
Really?
And none. So and at the time, this was like maybe 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. And at the time we were like, I just thought it was the wildest thing, because they chose not to implant, because they went there for a boy. And so they didn't implant. They only got 1 or 2, I think. I don't think they got. And she was like, I was ready for 10 embryos. I was going to get my boy. They paid 50 grand. And at the time, I really didn't understand. I thought it was selfish and crazy and da-da-da.
Yeah.
She said, Rochelle, I still chose to not implant something that could have been my child. That was awful for me. She said, but my husband and I wanted a boy,
Yeah.
and they came back to Australia and fell pregnant with a girl. So they have 6 girls. But then she said, but every weekend now we get out their footy gear. They got their footy boots there. She goes, my girls have just become, these footy players, which is what her husband always wanted, was his little footy boy. And she goes, so it didn't matter in the end.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what a wild lesson journey that was.
Yeah, so many things to actually realize what I wanted was right in front of me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Well, you are amazing, and I feel like this has been such a educational, like hypercoiling, like vanishing twins, uteruses fused, like fuck me, you've had a ride. And I think sometimes I'm in this space at the moment. I'm, as you know, I'm winding down on the podcasts, and I'm going to, wrap these all up as season 1. And when I feel ready to come back, I will do like a season 2, which is more like, where are they now? And people that have got this on the other side type thing. And funnily enough, both today's were almost that, because you have, when I hear the stories of so much loss, it scares me, because, I've only had 2 miscarriages and Milli. I'm fucking petrified that it's going to keep going before I get my earthside babies. And I know I'm going to get them, but it scares me. But what I loved about your episode today is that you do talk so beautifully about it. You've talked about the deep and the dark and the depths, and that your marriage is still amazing, and that you've traveled, and that you had a plan, and that, you've given me so much hope in, no matter what the journey is, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. And I 100% believe that. And if someone had told me that in my grief, I would have wanted to punch them in the face. So I get that too. But as someone who has lived this experience, I never dreamed that I would get to where I am today. With gratitude.
Yeah. I love that. And I love how much you are doing with Arlo and for Arlo and your kids and everything. I've really, really enjoyed today.
Me too.
No, you're amazing. Well, I look forward to hearing when the urns come out, and I will be sure to put the links to your pages and stuff in the show notes. So if anyone wants to go on and buy the beautiful box and the miscarriage box and all the things, just all the bits of Arlo.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you. I really enjoyed today too.
All right, beautiful. And we will chat soon. Is there anything else you wanted to share or leave us with?
Nope. That's it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Very privileged to share my story.
Yeah, you're awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks, Rach. Bye.